Around 1150 years ago, a battle took place somewhere here, one that would shape how England looks today, the laws, the heritage, the religions and the roots. So much of the future of this country landed in the hands of those that took part.
Battles have taken place before and would again, but for this one, for me, well, this was a significant turning point.
But did it actually take place here in this area? Because we speak of this battle with enormous confidence. Hundreds of videos, books, reconstructions.
Writing, stories, fact and fiction, but when you try and follow the evidence, something really odd happens. All that certainty collapses.
So today I've asked for the help of local historian James.
Morning, Paul.
And we're going to try and unpick one of the most important battles in England and ask the question, did it actually happen here? And can we even prove anything about it at all? So the battle took place in 878 AD.
Wait, how do we know that? And okay, so I'm not going to be doing that every single time we recite a fact, but I do think it's important that we start checking things here and assume nothing. Okay, so we know this from two different sources. Number one, we have the Life of King Alfred by Asser, written just a few years after, so broadly contemporary. And secondly, we have the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles. Now, they were not written all in one hit at one go, but first compiled around 890 AD and onwards for a couple of hundred years. Now, those two sources both give us a firm date we can agree on, 878 AD. That's it. We only have those two sources to help us find the location of this battle. Can we do that from just those two sources? Well, join us and find out.
So before James and I sort of try and use some of the evidence that we have to pinpoint this battle and start pointing at stuff here and there, I think first of all we need a little bit of context, because often a battle is at the end of a chain of events. So if we're going to break this down, we need to consider why there was a battle in the first place. We need to roll back 20 years, a time when England wasn't England, and the thing arriving on the horizon wasn't just another raid, it was something far greater.
For generations, Vikings had been turning up, hitting and taking what they could, and then disappearing. But that would change mid-800s, and the sources have described a force not here for smash and grab. Large Scandinavian forces arrive, and from that point onwards, English kingdoms start to fall one by one. Northumbria, East Anglia, and then Mercia take a hammering. Suddenly, Wessex seems to be the last major kingdom still standing. By 871, the pressure hits Wessex hard. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle gives us this grim rhythm of campaigning, battles, retreats, payments, more battles. So when Asser tells us Alfred's brave and tireless and chosen, well, that might be true, but it's also the kind of story that a kingdom will tell to sell itself. The point is, Wessex is learning painfully that we can't just win one battle and be done with this. Still, a pattern emerges. The Danes move, settle and demand terms. By the mid-870s, the war comes right down to the south and the west. The Chronicle places the Viking army at Wareham, and then later at Exeter. Those aren't random towns, they're very strategic. They're ports and they're strongholds. They're places you can hold through winter. Then comes the moment that both Asser and the Chronicle treat it much like a punch in the gut. The midwinter after the 12th night. The Danish army stole away to Chippenham, and that is the phrase the Chronicle uses, and from there they overrun Wessex. It describes this as sudden. We don't get a blow-by-blow account, but Alfred is forced into a very different landscape, into the woods and then into the marshes. According to Asser, he builds a stronghold, and then Wessex gathers force once again. But we're back to our problem, because sources that get us to the battle close to the time, well, they're not like the sat-nav or an absolute guide we can read. They give us names and then they stop. So the question for today isn't just what happened, it's can we actually place it here at all with any evidence, or are we repeating a story with more confidence than the sources really allow?
And myself and Paul are just walking back, and we can actually clock our walking speed on here. So there I am, 4 miles an hour. So if you look across from here, Guthrum was coming from Chippenham, which is in this direction to the north.
Yes.
And you notice all the land there is flat, and some of it would have been boggy. So they would have had to have found almost a higher level in that lower land to get here.
Once Alfred leaves the marshes, the sources suddenly become unusually helpful, at least in terms of movement. Asa tells us that Alfred rides out from Athelney and then heads to a place called Egbert Stone on the eastern side of Selwood Forest. Now this matters because Selwood isn't just a forest is a boundary, political, cultural, logistic, and Egbert Stone, well, that's where the army reforms. Men arrive from Somerset, Wiltshire, Hampshire. This is a planned rendezvous. The implication is that Alfred's chosen this place when and where to emerge rather than reacting blindly to the Danes. Asa then gives us a rare sequence. From Egbert Stone, Alfred camps for a single night and then moves at dawn to a place called Alger, camps again and only then advances first light to Edington. The route tells us this much: Alfred is advancing deliberately along the edge of Selwood towards confrontation he appears to have chosen. The battle doesn't erupt by accident, it happens at the end of his route.
Right, James, so we're on, this officially called Bratton Camp?
Bratton Hill Fort. Bratton Camp, yeah.
Right, okay. So we're looking at something that's probably just over 2,500 years old. Iron Age, probably early Iron Age. Really well-defined, beautiful hill fort. I've never been here before. You can even drive through it. There's a car going through it, which is crazy. What do we think are the odds on the Battle of Ethundon taking place here?
Well, the facts are, and the big facts are, that it's a difficult area to get to. It's high on the hills, and unless you come from Salisbury Plain, it's not an easy route at all. So therefore we look at valleys and the flat beds of valleys as to where the battle may have occurred.
Okay, so I wanted to look at the hill fort, but James reassured me no battle would have taken place here from that era, but he was really keen to show me his best guess on the location, around 2 miles away, and when we arrived I completely understood why.
So this is where things get really difficult, because when we step away from all of those stories and we start looking for physical evidence, well, we have no sort of contemporary markers in the landscape, and as far as I'm aware, I'm not sure we have even any sort of physical archaeology. Does that sound about right, James?
Yes, it does, Paul. The truth of it is that nothing has been found which can actually accurately relate to the battle itself.
And metal detectors, you said they found nothing whatsoever as well.
Metal detectorists, as you were saying, Paul, correctly in the area, found nothing at all, and it's been detected for years and years all around this area.
So really we have no signatures to look for, so what we're going to have to refer to is the sources.
And this, well, may very well be one that I'm taking you to now.
So what can we actually use? First, the name. The source is Ethundon or Edington. Well, places like Edington clearly preserve that name. That's real evidence, but it's not pinpointing it as such. Now second, the route. Alfred's march along the edge of Selwood points us into these parts of Wiltshire. Again helpful, but still a little bit broad. Okay, so the wind is getting out of control, so we're just going to pause here for a second. Now what James is pointing us to is really important. Number one, the view across the valley there. You can see the hill fort that we were just at, Bratton Camp. And of course, more importantly, down in the valley below us, there's a very old field name, Danesley. Now that's not evidence in itself, but field names do persist, and this one goes back quite a long way. Now on top of that, we've got something else really important just up ahead.
So grandfathers used to tell their grandsons and granddaughters that the bloodstone was stained red with the blood of Danes.
Yeah.
And that the blood of Danes came about on the stone through people being beheaded on there, and that Alfred had driven the forces into here and he beheaded the people one by one on the stone if they didn't admit to the faith. Well, the truth of it is the red on the stone actually comes from iron oxide within the stone, so it's not blood at all. In 1975, the water board were digging down in Stradbrook at the bottom of here, just down where the springs are, and they found 3 headless skeletons.
Right.
Those skeletons were retrieved by Wessex Archaeology or Devizes Museum, who put them in shoe boxes and put them away.
So yeah, we're kind of we just stood there for 10 minutes theorising of could a battle happen here, and for me it all comes down to why they were going to be here. Why was Alfred marching from that direction to somewhere here, and how did he know Guthrum was going to be here? Or was Guthrum marching second? I don't think so. It feels like this was kind of pre-planned by Alfred in terms of gathering everybody at Egbert Stone, then making their way here. Well, they know Guthrum's going to be here, so perhaps Guthrum's already stormed the manor and all of that and it's causing lots of trouble.
Yeah.
Perhaps that's more likely, but then does that tell us anything about the actual battle site? Not a great deal, other than to me, James, we were just saying, I feel my instinct would be it was out the front, for want of a better word, on the north side of these hills.
Yes.
Down by the manor, perhaps, for example.
Yeah.
Even though we've got a great field name there, perhaps that is kind of a bit
Danesley.
of a Danesley. Perhaps that is kind of a bit of a whim of someone that did the maps. So after the battle, both Asser and the Anglo-Saxon chronicles, well, they both agree on exactly what happened next.
The defeated army flees to its stronghold, almost certainly Chippenham. What follows is not the end of Viking presence in England, but then the sources are really clear. Hostages are exchanged, oaths are sworn, and then something extraordinary happens.
So this is where Guthrum then agrees to be baptised, and it often makes me wonder, we are reading a story, albeit with two sources, we're reading a story from one side. How do we know that happened? We're questioning it again, but that's all we have to go on.
Warfare gives way to boundaries. Alfred isn't trying to expel the Danes from Britain, he's trying to stabilise what is left of Wessex.
Out of this would come what later generations would refer to as Dane law. Not lines drawn on a map in an immediate overnight sense, but a recognition that England is now a shared space.
Scandinavian law, language and settlement take root in the east and the north.
This isn't a single nation yet, it's very much a patchwork, but crudely it's a patchwork that is no longer collapsing. And for the first time in decades, well, that slide comes to an end.
Wessex survives. A West Saxon royal line endures. English law, written culture and kingship develop from there. The language we speak, the routes we travel and the shape of the country. None of that was inevitable, but after this moment, one particular path remained open.
Well, big thanks to my local historian who's guided me through this journey today. James also has a YouTube channel, right, James?
I certainly do. It's called James Walks in History.
I'll put that link below in the description of the pinned comment, so go subscribe. Loads of local's the wrong word because you get out and about all over the place, but very detailed history on specific sites, right?
Correct, yeah. Always the abstract history of an area you may have been to many times, but something about it you wouldn't have known.
Love it. Right, go subscribe. We'll see you this time next week.